Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. I am David Ghatan, immediate past president of the IALD, and we're joined today by our executive committee, our president, Douglas Leonard, our treasurer, Christopher Knowlton, our president-elect, Mônica Lobo, as well as our CEO, Marsha Turner, and our COO, Ashley Robbins. It's my pleasure to be with you today to moderate this important update. We will have time for questions, so please add questions to the Q&A feature at the bottom of the page. There should be one that's labeled Q&A, and we'll be able to get to them at the end. So IALD elections ensure continued leadership of the association, and we are joined today by two familiar faces who happen to be in new roles. And I wanted to take a moment to make sure that we introduce the new members of the executive committee. Mônica, our president-elect, has been an IALD board member for 5 years. She is the creative director of LD Studio in Brazil, an architect and a lighting designer. She is a co-founder of ASBAI, an active member of the lighting community in Latin America, and she received her CLD in 2017. She's also a professional member of the IALD. Christopher, IALD treasurer, has served on the board of directors since 2019. He provided insight and expertise to the Enlighten Americas and Europe content advisory committees, including chairing the Enlighten Europe committee twice. A one-time IALD chapter coordinator, Christopher is the co-founder of the London-based studio 18 Degrees. He is also a professional member. I'd like to pass now to our president, Douglas Leonard, to give us some welcome remarks. So Douglas.
Thank you, David. And hello, everyone, and thank you for joining. In these times of physical distancing and still having restrictions on traveling, instances like this meeting are great opportunities to join and gather as a community. And part of that is sharing the same information and motivation. So we thought it was a good moment to get in touch and give an update on the finances, the staff restructuring, and where are we focusing our resources in the coming months and years. I am sure you are familiar to part of all this information by attending to previous updates and also through the IALD communications. Some of those news move us as members and friends, and especially those related to the reduction in our staff. The IALD was able to grow a unique team of excellence, but some of these great professionals and friends have left or will separate in the coming months. Our CEO, Marsha Turner, will leave the office at the end of June after 18 years of extraordinary service. Her vision and leadership has not only supported the growth and globalization of the organization, but also built the basis of an organizational culture that the IALD lives in and that I consider our most valuable asset. And although this is not a farewell meeting, I want to take this opportunity to thank you, Marsha, for your service and enormous contribution on behalf of the IALD Board of Directors, the regions and chapter coordinators, the volunteer groups, and all the members of the IALD from North America, Central and South America, Europe, Australia, Japan, China, India, and all the places where a lighting designer has decided to join this community to collaborate and celebrate the experience of lighting. Fortunately, Marsha and previous IALD leaders have also prepared the path for a leadership transition process like the one we are experiencing. So we are not only confident about how to move forward, but also excited about the future. So to understand the present and vision the future, nothing better than getting from our treasurer himself an update on the IALD finances. So Christopher.
Thank you, Douglas. Hello. The IALD generates revenue from a number of sources, and as a one-third owner of Lightfair, this has, in the past, contributed significantly to our revenues, and it's contributed a significant portion of our revenue. Having so much revenue from a single source is imbalanced, and several years ago, the board identified that such an imbalance of revenue was potentially risky. Before the pandemic, the board undertook a strategic planning session discussing how to better achieve balance in revenues, and it was identified that we needed to expand existing sources and find new ones. Unfortunately, the pandemic hit before we were able to implement any of those changes. And I'm sure, as you know, the impact of the pandemic to the IALD has been great. Like other associations with trade shows and conferences around the world, the IALD has faced a reduction in revenue. This was circa 80%. Thankfully, due to the diligent work of boards before us, they have been putting surplus revenue into a reserve fund in case of an emergency. Having never thought that this would be said emergency. In the short term, we've had to use these reserves as well as cutting expenses. And given the reduced revenues, the board has reviewed what will best serve the association moving forward. As a result, we are restructuring the organisation, including staffing, to accommodate this reduced revenue. We're focusing on key programs and services that we offer. And while these things are challenging, the changes are necessary for the IALD to continue, and they give us an opportunity to create a new future, something which Mônica will discuss later. First, to talk a little bit more about staffing, I'll pass to Marsha.
Thank you, Christopher. Before I get into the particulars of staffing, I'm going to riff off of something Christopher said about our core and essential programs and services. Historically, the IALD has been a small organization with a large global reach, and I attribute that to all of the efforts of the leaders and members who have been part of this organization for the past 50 years. There will be a number of changes in how we do things. The core priorities are going to stay the same. So when the board took a strategic look at the various activities that the IALD was engaged in order to achieve the goals and outcomes that we've identified as important for the IALD and for the profession, we realized that we needed to focus on membership. We needed to focus on building and strengthening our community and connection with both our members and stakeholders in the lighting community. A lot of that has been and will continue to be done through our region and chapter structure. There were some very foresightful leaders in this organization a number of years ago that developed our structure for regions and chapters, and that has paid off very well for the IALD. And that is where we see most of the connection and engagement with our members occurring. So we will continue to invest in the regions and chapters. We will continue to raise the profile of the profession through our international IALD Lighting Design Awards. These showcase excellence in lighting design and are one of the best known and most visible examples of what excellence in lighting looks like. We will also continue to build our relationships, not only with our IALD members, but with our supplier members, the relationships with which companies help the IALD sustain and grow its footprint around the world. We also will focus on keeping our certification program going and building collaborative relationships, not only with our stakeholder organizations, but other related organizations that help us extend our reach and amplify our voice. The number of staff that we had helping us do this before the pandemic was about 23. We had about 6 staff outside of North America helping support our region and chapter work, and we had 18 full-time professional staff. The region and chapter staff have been retained because that's where most of our connection with our members occurs. And the 18 staff in North America have been reduced now to 6. So regions and chapters are remain of utmost importance. Our membership remains of utmost importance, but you will see a change in staffing. And of course, I am one of those that will be stepping aside. And fortunately, we have been planning and growing our professional staff for a number of years. And Ashley Robbins, who has served the organization for over 8 years, starting in our membership area and moving into our Chief Operating Officer. She will step in as interim CEO. And I have every confidence that her leadership will help propel the organization into a grand adventure on the beginning of our next 50 years. Ashley, if you would like to talk a little bit about what the organization has in store, I think that would be great.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Marsha. And also just thank you for your dedication and leadership to the IALD and the IALD Education Trust for the last 18 years. I echo Douglas's sentiments that he provided to all of us earlier. And thank you all to all of you. I see some friends joining in from Australia and Europe and from all around the world. So it's so great to see all your names. And so if you do have any questions, as David mentioned, go ahead and pop them into the chat and we can answer them at the end. We wanted to make sure that you all were informed in terms of what was happening during this transition, along with staffing and with resources. And for me, it truly is a privilege to step in as interim CEO come July 1st and help with this transition during a challenging period for the IALD. We do remain hopeful and focused on a reimagined future. We know we cannot operate as we once did, and we must pivot as most of the world and industries, and I'm sure all of you have around the world. What will remain the same is our core values. So all of you, our community, our collaboration, innovation, integrity, and leadership. We'll continue to focus on our members. Without our members, we are not an association. We'll engage all of you from lighting designers to lighting suppliers, and we'll count on all of you now more than ever to reactivate and lead lighting design into the future. As Marsha mentioned, our region and chapter network continues to be of utmost importance to the IALD. And if you check out the IALD's calendar of events to see where you might be able to join, we do have new events popping up every day. Most recently, what we're celebrating is International Day of Light. We do have a Good Light, Good Life talk coming up on the 11th of May. In addition, Enlighten Asia is putting on a show on the 10th and 11th of November at the end of this year, and we're really excited about that as well. And you can join us on the 24th of June to celebrate the IALD Virtual Awards. And this event really showcases the excellence in lighting design, and it's a great way for all of us to connect. I really enjoyed chatting with all of you last year and celebrating all the winners. So please join us again this year. And we'll continue to support and promote Light Fair, the show for lighting designers for all of you. So I'll pass it over to Mônica Lobo, our incoming president, to talk to us a little bit more about the future of the IALD.
Thanks, Ashley. Hi, everyone. Happy to be with you here. I'm honored to have been elected to serve as president of the International Association of Lighting Designers in 2022-2023. IALD has always been a strong reference on my professional life, and for sure, It will continue to inspire, guide, support, and promote generations to come. Following the strategic thinking of this organization, we have set long and short-term key issues to address. As for the long term, we will rebuild our reserves and rethink and review conferences like Enlighten and LightFair, member value by unpacking today's member value proposition and understand what we need to keep, improve, and change to better serve our members in a world that has changed. And of course, the globalization plan to reinforce our presence in this new environment. In the short term, as everybody has talked about, keep member services and strengthen our regions and chapter networks as they are our closest connection and workforce to reach our members. Increase our revenues by focusing on next LightFair. And this is a good news. LightFair will happen on October this year in New York City, matching the Design Week. As Christopher mentioned, LightFair generates a large portion of our revenue. So we strongly invite you to support LightFair. LightFair is our show, and it's important that we think of it as our show. Even before the pandemic, LightFair team had been working on the rebranding and reimagining the show to better suit our whole ecosystem. It is the one opportunity to meet each other in person. The show management is working to organize and provide a safe and yet energetic environment. This year is important for us, lighting designers, to support the show that supports IALD. Manufacturers want to see you. So plan to attend LightFair in 2021, 2022, 2023, and beyond. Having said that, I get back to Douglas for his final thoughts.
Thanks, Mônica. And I'm really waiting, looking forward to see you all at LightFair and see you in person. These are challenging times. We are a social species as human beings, and we are collaborative individuals as lighting designers. So we miss each other. And that is why our community becomes so important. We need to be closer than ever, maybe. And this can be an exciting time for the IALD. It is an opportunity to be innovative and creative. As innovators ourselves, we know that we need to continually change to move forward. Nothing new for us. And as I mentioned, the IALD will use its core values moving forward: community, collaboration, innovation, integrity, and leadership. We will create new ways to raise the profession, ensure that the member engagement and the participation remain strong, and find new sources of revenue. This all means that maybe we will be doing things differently. But there are many different avenues to reach these goals and priorities, and we ask as members and friends to join us for this next adventure. And now I will pass it to David so he can moderate the questions and answers.
Great. Thank you, Douglas, and thank you to all of our the panel here for sharing your insights and providing these updates. We do have a few questions starting to come in, so I'll ask them in sort of no particular order here, but try to guide them to the right answers. Ashley, I'm going to address this first one to you, and then we maybe pass it through if needed. It's a bit of a broad question of when will the IALD, or will the IALD go back to normal, or maybe share some of your thoughts on what normal might be.
Yeah, exactly. I think we're all asking that, right? Even in our everyday personal lives, what is normal? The IALD, or the idea of normal, has really evolved and changed for all of us. I think the new reimagined future of what we're thinking, we'll keep doing programs and services for our members. We'll continue to support LightFair. in our region and chapters, as we've talked about. We'd love for all of you to plan to attend in person in Lighton, Palm Springs in 22, and then in Banff in 23. So those things are still normal. Those things still connect all of us and still what we're really looking forward to. And then we'll resume in-person events around the world when it is safe for you to do so in your location, in your area. So that's what we're thinking that normal looks like in the future. And if anyone else wants to add onto that.
Great. Thank you, Ashley. Douglas, I'm going to address this question to you. How will IALD look to display the success for all members of the community? How it's not just, I guess, asking it another way, how does IALD work toward its mission in this new restructuring? The visible success of lighting designers.
Thank you, David. I think that we can maybe acknowledge that we have like two levels. We have the tactic level where we have our programs, our activities, where we are trying to get in touch or deliver value to our members, get in touch to local communities, get in touch with a broader audience, influencing through public policy. There are many activities, as I mentioned, and programs that are strategies. But we have another level, which is our core ideology. I think that that is something permanent, and that is where we are always looking in order to move forward and in order to decide how to manage the resources we have. As a lean organization now, we need to be more focused than ever. And that is why the IALD Board of Directors spent some time last year, a lot of time actually, discussing and defining where we should put our effort into. So all the restructuring that Marsha, Ashley have just talked about is the response to that prioritization the Board of Directors made. And that prioritization is not only because some directors decided, it's because we are looking also what our members value the most. So we are looking in all the surveys that the IALD is regularly sending to you as members, and we are looking what the professionals value most. So I will take also the opportunity to ask you to keep answering those surveys, participating in any kind of questionnaire we are sending out, because that is how we feed our decision process. I don't know if that answers your questions.
I think it follows through on the breadth of what the association is doing and will continue to do to help elevate members and assist members in seeing success in practicing lighting design. So thank you, Douglas. Christopher, I'm going to pass the next question to you. If maybe you could add some more detail to some of the direct financial impacts that we've seen, both in our reserves and sort of overall in our sense of budget.
So as I mentioned, we have a reduction in revenue around 80%. So that's had a really significant impact on the way in which we have considered the budget for this year. So the budget is developed and approved by the board in the previous financial year. The current model is that the financial year runs January to December. And so we have looked to make reductions, but there are of course things that you can't get out of instantly. So for example, a lease on the office is you're tied into for a certain period of time. And in running our programs and services, for example, Lightfair and Enlighten, they also have contractual implications to them, which mean that if you cancel an event, there is a penalty that goes along with it. So in that sense, last year was anomalous. That led to us taking around half 50% of a draw on the reserves. And now we are trying to minimize that draw going forward. And that's something that we're reviewing quarterly this year and planning for next year also. So without being super specific about what the figures actually are, because I don't have them in front of me, that's roughly where we are around the 50% draw on the reserves, and we are actively watching what is happening, seeing where our revenue is coming from, making sure that we are tracking against the budget that was approved by the board, and making course corrections where required.
Thank you, Christopher. Yeah, I know you're keeping your thumb on the pulse of it quite closely as we look at everything. Ashley, there's a question for you to describe really what the functions and which buckets we're putting our efforts into with the remaining reduced staff.
Yeah, definitely. Great question. I'll just kind of run through a list of, it is quite a significant transition when we have so many people and we're kind of going down to this limited amount of staff. I will remind you, I was employee number 6 8 years ago as well. So we did have a significant growth over the last 8 years. But at the moment, we have Marissa Pasquale, who is managing our membership, and then also she'll do CLD as well and help with applicants who are applying and really keep that program going. And then we also have Kelly Ashmore, who has been with the IALD for 14 years now. So I would say a veteran there. She manages component relations and she manages a global aspect. So we still have our team in Europe as well, helping with public policy and component like region and chapters and Yuko in Japan as well. Then we also have May Schlatzauer, I think she's on this call too, who's managing our region and chapter and specifically in North America. And then we have other functions like Kevin Wolf, who's managing marketing, Rocio Shaw, our finance, Lavanya Swanson, who is our exec admin team, who's going to be helping with IT and helping set up all these different things, and then myself as well. So I mentioned we have 6 full-time staff, and then we do have some other people that are employed around the world as well.
Great. Yes, a certainly reduced but very multifunctional team, ready to probably overcommit on everything and over-deliver at the same time. I think we have time for another question, which I'll start with Mônica, and then again maybe pass it to a few folks. Mônica, how can I, as an individual member, help the IALD now?
I think that first of all, make a connection with your regions and chapters coordinator, your folks from your region, and bring ideas. And of course, I think staying, paying your dues, upgrade your membership, and support these committees, support the board. It's the immediate thing, I think.
Great. Christopher, you have some insight from having been a chapter coordinator. So how would you see the grassroots level, the local community as part of our broad global approach to things, achieving that and helping to propel the IALD forward?
I think there's a couple of things. One of the most simple things that you can do, and as someone who's done this, is really appreciated, which is to RSVP to events, say that you're going to go, and then if you say you're going to go, actually go. Running events at a local level is a challenge, and the people who are undertaking that role are working hard in their own time to kind of put events together to bring the local community closer, and your support is a really significant component of how successful that is. So, supporting them is really important. And the other thing for I think that really we need to become more engaged with is energy and sustainability and public policy. They both require local input. Both, you know, in different countries, it works in different ways. In the States, you have both federal and state level things happening. We in the UK have just left Europe. We don't really know what that means, but what we do know is it means we need to read everything, and we need to read what's happening in Europe as well as what's happening here. And that doesn't happen by magic. We need people to sit down and read the stuff and actually comment and work out whether it's good for us or not. So supporting the people who are already leading that is hugely important to getting IALD's voice out, not just at a global level, but at a local level where we can really make an impact to those making legislation close to us.
Thank you. Again, very, very good words about the importance of local volunteering and the notion that we are in it together and how we all rise together through sharing. Well, I'd like to thank everyone and pass over to Douglas for any closing thoughts or remarks that he'd like to send us off with tonight.
Thank you, David. I think that Christopher's last words I think that tee up what can be the closing of this nice meeting. I think that this is a call to service. Together we are bigger, are stronger, and I think this is the moment to join together, to work together, to participate more than ever, maybe, to open the garden, the butterfly garden that Victor Palacio once imagined and articulated as a metaphor, and our past treasure, Rod Kurtz, mentioned we don't need only butterflies, but let's invite all the other bugs. Let's open this community. We will move forward in collaboration here. Professionals, students, manufacturers, other entities. We need to come all together to make lighting design more strong than ever, because it's challenging. It's challenged right now. So I think this is a space. We are the leaders in this environment. I think we have a clear vision of it. So let's work together to lead this new time. Thanks for joining, and let's keep in touch.